The United States stands today as the wealthiest and most influential nation in global history. Yet, its ascent to this position was far from inevitable for over a century following its discovery. The vast territories of North America remained largely overlooked by European powers. When Christopher Columbus set sail westward in search of a trade route to Asia, he stumbled upon Caribbean islands instead, never realizing he had encountered an entirely new continent. The Vikings had previously reached these lands, but their discoveries went unrecognized. Columbus, convinced he had reached the Indies, named the indigenous peoples Indians and returned the Spanish monarchs with tailies of gold rather than the spices he had sought. The Spanish crown, enticed by promises of wealth and conversion opportunities, commissioned further expeditions. Meanwhile, Portugal had successfully established a route to Asia by circumnavigating Africa, leading to a papal agreement that divided the world between these two powers. Spain claimed territories west of an agreed meridian, while Portugal controlled lands to the east. The Spanish focused their colonial efforts on Central and South America, where abundant gold, silver, and large populations promised immediate wealth. An expedition into North America in 1539 yielded no precious metals, causing Spain to neglect these northern territories for generations. England sent its first explorer to North America before Spain even discovered Florida. Yet nearly a century passed before serious English colonization efforts began. The Roanoke colony, established in 1585, vanished mysteriously during England's conflict with Spain. Jamestown, founded in 1607, became England's first permanent settlement, followed by Plymouth, where strict religious settlers established communities that banned gambling and Christmas celebrations. British colonization accelerated rapidly, covering the Atlantic seaboard with thriving settlements. France simultaneously claimed vast interior regions, establishing New France with approximately 60,000 inhabitants by 1754. The inevitable clash between these colonial powers erupted in the French and Indian War, pitting New France and its indigenous allies against British colonies boasting over 1 million settlers and their own native Confederates. British victory proved decisive, and subsequent European conflicts resulted in France ceding Louisiana's eastern portion and Canada to Britain, while secretly transferring Louisiana's western half to Spain. Britain's territorial gains came with substantial war debts, prompting new taxation policies for American colonies. Colonial resentment over taxation without representation escalated into armed conflict, culminating in the Declaration of Independence on July 4, 1776. 5 additional years of warfare secured American independence, but victory revealed fundamental governmental weaknesses. The 13 colonies functioned essentially as independent nations united only nominally, threatening the entire revolutionary project with collapse. The Founding Fathers responded by drafting a revolutionary constitution that established a functional federal government. When 9 states ratified this document, George Washington assumed the presidency in 1789. Though the young nation controlled only Atlantic coastal territories while Spain possessed vast western lands, Napoleon Bonaparte's rise in France dramatically altered this situation after forcing Spain to retrocede Louisiana. Napoleon planned a North American empire, but faced British opposition and potential American hostility, calculating that Louisiana's sale would fund European campaigns while securing American friendship. Napoleon sold the entire territory for $15 million, instantly doubling American landmass. This acquisition proved timely, as American families typically raised 7 children. Creating intense pressure for westward expansion, settlers moved into these territories, often displacing indigenous populations who had hunted these lands for generations. In 1819, Spain sold Florida to the United States and agreed to a border delineating Spanish and American territories. Mexican independence in 1821 created a new neighbor with sparsely populated northern provinces. Mexico invited American settlers into Texas to develop these frontier regions, but these immigrants soon outnumbered Mexican residents and declared independence, forming the Republic of Texas. Initially rejected due to slavery concerns, Texas joined the Union in 1845 under a new administration. Border disputes triggered war with Mexico, resulting in American acquisition of vast southwestern territories for $15 million. supplemented by an additional purchase of southern Arizona and New Mexico for $10 million 5 years later. Britain agreed to divide Oregon Territory along the 49th parallel, giving the United States southern portions while retaining northern regions. Within 50 years, through fortunate circumstances and military action, the United States stretched from Atlantic to Pacific Oceans. The Guano Islands Act even allowed Americans to claim uninhabited, guano-covered islands as national territory, a law that remarkably remains valid. California's gold discovery immediately following American acquisition triggered massive migration westward, while Oregon's fertile farmland attracted agricultural settlers. Despite external prosperity, internal divisions over slavery threatened national cohesion. Northern states had abolished slavery and increasingly viewed it as moral evil, while Southern economies remained dependent on enslaved labor. Abraham Lincoln's 1860 election convinced Southern states that abolition was imminent, prompting their secession and formation of the Confederacy. The resulting Civil War killed hundreds of thousands, but ultimately preserved the Union and ended slavery. Lincoln's assassination occurred alongside an attempt on Secretary of State Seward's life, though Seward survived his stabbing. Russia's offer to sell Alaska for $7 million added another massive territory to American holdings. American businessmen's takeover of Hawaii initially faced presidential rejection based on principles of justice and international law, but concerns that rival powers like Germany or Japan might seize these strategic islands eventually led to annexation. This shift from isolationism to international engagement intensified during Cuba's independence struggle against Spain. After an American warship exploded mysteriously in Havana Harbor, the United States demanded Spanish withdrawal from Cuba. Spain's declaration of war proved disastrous, as American forces swiftly captured Cuba, Puerto Rico, and the Philippines, dismantling Spain's colonial empire. Hawaii's annexation during this conflict recognized its strategic naval importance. President William McKinley's assassination elevated Theodore Roosevelt to the presidency, where his energetic leadership expanded American influence globally. When Colombia rejected terms for a canal across the isthmus, Roosevelt supported Panamanian independence, quickly negotiating canal rights with the new nation. Roosevelt built the world's second-largest navy, using this maritime power to project American influence across both oceans. The Panama Canal's completion in 1914 allowed rapid naval deployment between Atlantic and Pacific waters, solidifying American status as a global power precisely as World War I began transforming international relations forever, marking the definitive emergence of the United States as a dominant force in world affairs that would shape the 20th century and beyond.